Welcome to the RCSLT National Student Study Day for 2020. I think you're going to have a fabulous day, and I'd just like to introduce myself. My name's Della, and I'm the outgoing chair of the RCSLT Board of Trustees, and I'm also the Associate Director for Allied Health Professions at Nottinghamshire Healthcare NHS Trust. And I'm joined today by Mary. Mary, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Mary Heritage. I work in Derbyshire and I'm the incoming chair, currently deputy chair of RCSLT.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to tell you about our career journeys. So to start with, the journey to NQP, we've all been there. So every single person has been an NQP, but every single person has had a different experience. That might be the supervision they've had, the preceptee experience they've had, but now in 2020, 2021, the experience is also going to be different because of the impact of COVID-19 and how that will have impacted on your student placements and how you're starting your new job. But no matter what, everybody's first job and everybody's careers has highs and lows. And I think the really important thing I'd like to say to you as all is don't let those lows define you. It's really important to hang on to your values and always be up to something. And that might mean developing your knowledge and your skills, or it might be being brave and taking a leap of faith. If you'd have told the 22-year-old version of myself that you can see here, that I would be now in front of you as the outgoing chair or as the associate director for allied health professions for my trust or as having a PhD, I would never have believed you. I didn't have a career plan. I was an average student at Birmingham Poly. And what's happened is I've just taken one step at a time, lots of leaps of faith and seized opportunities. So how did I get here? This next slide shows you some of my key drivers. And it really is a combination of these drivers, my values and my leadership that has got me to where I am now. And the idea that there's no blame or no bad decisions. When we make decisions about careers or about projects that we want to do, we can only ever base it on what we know at that time. And sometimes you then 2 months down the line, 6 months, a year, realize that you've learned far more. And in fact, that's not for you, or it's not what you want to do. And that is absolutely okay. That doesn't make it a bad decision. It was a good decision at the time, but it's just not right for you. So it's really important to learn from everything. I think the other thing is you can see the juggling going on here. That's about juggling careers. It's about juggling work-life balance, but it's also about juggling and always being up to something. So that's my motto really, is always being up to something. And I thought I'd share with you some of the pivotal experiences that have happened to me throughout the career that have taken me to where I am now. So not all pivotal experiences are things we choose. So my first one, I said I was at Birmingham as a student. We did a 6-month placement, and the placement that I did was in adult learning disabilities. In the 80s, this was in a mental handicap hospital. And I can assure you that growing up in the 60s and 70s, there was no such thing as integration. I'd never seen anybody with a learning disability. So it was a massive cultural shock for me to end up in an institution on my placement. And I thought, wow, I don't know if I can do this. But by the second week, I thought, actually, I can do this. And I could really see how speech and language therapy could make a difference. And that has stayed with me because my whole career has been in adult learning disabilities. And it was only in my sort of second year of work when I was working with people that were supporting people with adult learning disabilities that I started to develop the idea of the means, reasons and opportunities model. So I was very junior therapist at the time, but I just wanted a way of explaining to people that there was more to communication than talking and about how we did it. What was really important was why we did it and the who, where and when. So that idea of means, reasons and opportunities came very early on in my career. I went on to do a PhD, but I wasn't looking for a research post. Actually, in all honesty, I was looking for a post nearer to home because I'd moved, but this post came up and it was the same distance to home, and there was an opportunity to do some research, and I decided I wanted to do that properly, registered for an MPhil with the Montfort University, and it became a PhD, and that led on to things that I would never have imagined. So it led on to me being an advisor for the Royal College. It led on to me being a fellow at the Royal College. So things haven't always been my choices though. So I chose to be head of service for the Adult Learning Disability Service in Nottingham. I didn't choose to be head of the 3 merged services that subsequently happened. I didn't initially choose to be an allied health professional lead. It was something that, as part of a service transformation, that I took on. I didn't choose to be in the situation where we rolled out the 5 good communication standards for the Royal College, because we did that on the back of Winterbourne View scandal, which was a terrible situation. So pivotal experiences aren't necessarily things that we choose, but they are all things that we learn from. And throughout all of my career, I've constantly been inspired by my patients with adults with learning disabilities, their families, their carers, by my SLT teams, by my SLT colleagues across the East Midlands and nationally, as well as my AHP colleagues and some of my managers who have really seen something in me and encouraged me along the way. I suppose what I didn't realise about vision was that I did have some vision and that I could always see how things could be different. But some of those things aren't necessarily big. I'm not talking big strategy. I'm just talking about little differences that I could make to either my patients on my caseload or to the staff in my team. And I suppose part of my ability to do this, and I had no idea at the time what emotional intelligence was. That's only a word that I've learned really in recent times. But what I have discovered about when I read about emotional intelligence is that my career journey has been underpinned by that. So I've always been curious, and I've always been self-aware and reflective. I've always understood other people's perspectives, or at least tried to understand other people's perspectives. And I've focused on relationships and enabling others. I'm not a perfectionist, so I was happy to sort of settle for some things. But underpinning all of that, my own personal attributes really of being kind, of being humble and modest have sort of underpinned the journey that I've taken. And I suppose the final thing are my values. So the next slide, you'll see that these are my core values, but these are the core values of the NHS. And I have stayed working in the NHS because these values have been really important to me. You know, the first value is all about patients first. Engagement, involvement, inclusion are so important to me and have run through my career. Respect and dignity, valuing everyone, being open and honest. And that's not just about with our patients, that is how we treat our staff. I've always been committed to quality of care. That's about the safety of the services we provide, the effectiveness and the patient experience. And I believe that all staff should be delivering that with compassion. We should have humanity and kindness. And it's only that that really will improve the health and well-being of people's lives. We have to be able to provide the greatest impact through excellent clinical practice, service improvements and innovation. And when we say everyone counts, everyone means everyone. So I've always thought that that's about adults with learning disabilities who could be marginalised or sidelined. When we look at staffing groups now, it's always hearing the voice of the seldom heard, and often AHPs can be sidelined and not recognised. And the final thing that I always knew was that being a leader mattered. And my next slide is about SLTs as future leaders. These aren't people that are in senior roles. Being an SLT future leader is about being able to motivate, enable, and involve and include others. And I think a really important thing is that you know what the future that you care about is. You know what's important to you. You know what the leader you are is. you think and reflect again. I do not think over reflection is a bad thing. I think it's only ever a good thing. And that you look ahead, and that you've got some vision and horizon scanning. That's not necessarily looking ahead 5-10 years. It might just be a month or so, but it is about being flexible and not precious. And then we have to seize our opportunities. And often as SLTs, there'll be a project here that you could do, or a secondment for a day, or something that you never quite thought about, but it's a chance, it's something to try. And it's always great to try things and always to be up to something. And I think that's always been the case for me. I've always been up to something. So whatever you are up to, do remember that RCSLT is our professional body working with us, for us, and that you are the future of the RCSLT. And you are not on your own. It may feel like it at times, but you really are not. And the most important thing is that you connect, that you engage, that you get involved, and that you are always up to something. Good luck with your careers. You've made a great decision to get this far. So I hope you have as much success and enjoyment out of your SLT career as I have myself. Thank you. I'd like to hand over to Mary now, who will tell you about her career journey.
Thanks, Della. So I was asked to think about my journey to becoming a newly qualified practitioner. Well, what I want to say is it's the hard part. I was 18 and I left my family home in Essex to start my training at Leicester Polytechnic, which is now De Montfort University, in 1983. And I found the training was tough. I was dealing with life away from home, sometimes in poor housing, and living an independent life for the first time, very young. The academic aspects were not the hardest part, I don't think, though some of the linguistics did challenge me. Placements were hard and really required stamina. There was the travel, the early starts, the learning to be a professional, the learning to be an expert. Again, still feeling quite young and feeling like an imposter sometimes. I think that's something that we have to learn to manage at every stage, and I'm still dealing with that, especially at this point in my career. As a young person, I didn't know that I still hadn't finished my own neurodevelopment. But these were important years to build the foundations of who I am and who I was going to be. So my career path, I think I can sum that up in lifelong learning. RCSLT has provided me with excellent opportunities throughout my whole career path. The amount of resources that are now included in your membership is absolutely fantastic. Your employer as well will provide opportunities that will be very valuable within the speech and language therapy team and outside of it. I was lucky enough to be able to combine a clinical career for 27 years before I moved away from clinical practice. My leadership journey started very soon after graduation. As Della said, it's never too early to be supporting your colleagues and influencing change, being a leader. My engagement in RCSLT started back in the first couple of years after graduation. I joined a local network that met in the evenings, and later on I joined what are now called clinical excellence networks, contributing to different working parties over the years and going on to chair the steering group that produced the first position paper for dementia and speech and language therapy, a very new field for our profession at that time, and something I'm really proud of to this day. I joined a formal committee. I went on to be a key part and then a chair of our East Midlands Regional Managers Group, and later joined the Board of Trustees. So I really encourage you to find your place in your professional body. We are college. Social media has only been part of my continuing professional development for the past 7 years, but it's so important now. I'm sure you're going to have a key role in supporting older and more clinically experienced colleagues find the best out of social media in the years ahead. And nowadays, I'd encourage everyone to access coaching throughout your professional career to support you finding your own solutions to your own development needs. If you can find someone who's more senior than you, then also approach them to mentor you. Your coaches and your mentors will be part of your band of what I call my wise owls, people in your life who will support you through changes and career crossroads. So why is the RCSLT so important to you and to me? I remember that my first ever checkbook, when I had my first ever bank account as a fresher, I wrote that check out to the College of Speech Therapists, as we now were, for my student membership. My RCSLT journey has been the golden thread throughout my career, and at times it was the place I developed when I was in frustrating times in my employed work. And at other times I just wanted to put something back from what I was learning elsewhere in the profession that had given me so much. At every stage, from writing that first check in 1983 to standing here now before you, which is slightly surreal, RCSLT has been part of my professional life. My job is now not in speech and language therapy, but is leading allied health professions more widely in Derbyshire. I've learned a great deal about how other professions think and work and how they approach problems, and it's different. Coming to an RCSLT event, even a virtual one, feels like coming home. We have to be careful to recognise that we can fall into tribes, and they can be exclusive and they can be divisive. But there is both an identity and a sense of belonging to be among our own people. We share so much, the values, the language, the ways we think, and often a sense of humour. My values. Maybe you've had a chance to use a tool like this to identify your top values. I found it really hard to reduce it beyond 12. I'm happy to share these with you, as it's the quickest way to tell you who I am and what I stand for. Some of these are key for me as a human being, things like love, trust, nature, faith. Others have been key to my professional life: empathy, connection, freedom, and growth. And the remaining values are what brought me into speech and language therapy and are core to me as a professional, and as I hope will be clear as a leader: making a difference, fairness, diversity, and integrity. I hope that you'll see that in my leadership and being congruent with these. So my strengths. I was recently able to use some software, and there's plenty of free products that are out there online that might help you. This really helped me to identify and name my strengths, and this has been so helpful. If only I'd been aware of this at an earlier stage in my career. The first four, creativity, developing others, empathy, and relationship building, helped me become a decent speech and language therapist, especially working in new clinical fields. The last three will help me in the next 2 years as RCSLT chair. Perhaps this will be the biggest challenge of all for me: to step forward in my professional career, to take a lead in my profession, and to deal with that inner imposter. There's something that I've learned: turn your weaknesses into strengths. For example, I often struggle with detail, but that's another way of saying that my strength is in being strategic minded. I love to focus on future possibilities, to envision how things could improve and to play the long game. I'm excited that in my new role as chair, this will enable me to use that strength. As a Board of Trustees, we will be setting the direction for the profession in the UK way beyond my own term of office and into the future, when you will be the members, the leaders, and the future board members. I hope that you'll all hold me to account during my time as your chair, and that you'll be ready to take part in this body that we're so proud of, to be able to regard college not as them, but as us. So the future. I'd like to see my time ahead laying some foundations that you'll be able to build upon in the decades ahead, so that everyone participates. We're all RCSLT. That we become a more diverse profession that gives opportunity to enjoy this fantastic profession for anyone who could thrive as a speech and language therapist. I think we'll be building a global speech and language therapy community more and more. We in the UK have got so much to offer colleagues overseas and so much to learn from them, especially those in countries where the profession is just starting out. And technology is going to give us a way to do that. And I want to see a world where people with communication disabilities can realise their potential and can fulfil their part in society. Enjoy today, enjoy the rest of your learning journey, and enjoy your career ahead. You've got a fantastic future. Thank you.